The cold hum of the starship's engines was the only sound as Kaarix stood in the war room of the Iron Resolve. His emerald-green scales shimmered faintly under the holographic projection of the galaxy before him. His yellow eyes, slit and sharp, traced the movements of fleets, supply lines, and points of conflict. He had been a hunter his entire life, but this was a new kind of hunt. Beside him stood Elias Mercer, his rugged face illuminated by the cool blue light of the projection. His ice-blue eyes, cold and calculating, scanned the same paths. There was a tension between them, part wariness, part mutual respect. Kaarix had once been tasked with killing this man. Now, they fought side by side. Mercer broke the silence. "We've got a problem." Kaarix's mandibles clicked. "You mean besides the war?" Mercer's lips curled into a faint smirk, but it faded quickly. "A ship, unmarked, heavily armed, and it's been shadowing us for days." Kaarix's eyes narrowed. "Council forces?" Mercer shook his head. "No signatures, no comms. Whoever they are, they're staying just out of engagement range. But they're watching." The Sistari assassin felt his instincts flare. "A predator." "Maybe," Mercer said, his voice low. "But if they are, they're patient, and I don't trust patience without a reason." Before Kaarix could respond, the war room's alarms blared. The ship's AI chimed through the speakers. "Proximity alert. Unknown vessel has closed to engagement range. Weapons systems detected." Mercer's expression hardened. "So much for patience." He turned to the comms panel. "Vasquez, talk to me." Lieutenant Sarah Vasquez's voice crackled through the speakers. "They've powered up weapons. No response to hails." Mercer's jaw set. "Shields up. Prepare for..." The ship shook violently as a searing blast rocked the hull. "Shields at 65%, the AI reported. Kaarix's claws tightened. "They're not testing us. They're hunting us." Mercer's eyes blazed. "Then let's show them what happens when you hunt humans." The Iron Resolve, battle deck. The void outside erupted into chaos as the unknown vessel unleashed a barrage of high-intensity plasma fire. The Iron Resolve answered with railgun rounds, the shots screaming through the darkness. On the bridge, Vasquez barked orders. "Helm, evasive pattern, Delta 5, return fire, focus on their weapons array." The ship rocked from another impact. Sparks flew from the control panels. "Shields down to 40%, shouted the tactical officer. Mercer and Kaarix entered the bridge, their presence cutting through the tension. Vasquez turned, her scarred face tight with urgency. "They're faster than anything we've seen. I've never seen tech like this." Mercer's brow furrowed. "Kaarix?" The Starry's eyes narrowed. "Not council, not any known guild. This is something else." Suddenly, the enemy ship ceased fire. The comm channel crackled to life with a distorted voice. "Stand down, Mercer, or be destroyed." Mercer's eyes flashed. "So they know me. That's cute." He pressed the comm. "Who the hell are you?" There was a pause. Then the voice, cold and emotionless, replied, "We are the Pale Hand. We hunt those who disrupt the balance." Kaarix's mandibles flared. "I know that name. They're a myth, an assassin sect older than the council itself. They don't kill for money, they kill for order." Mercer's voice hardened. "Well, they just made the wrong enemy." The enemy ship charged weapons again. "Brace, Vasquez yelled. But instead of firing, they boarded. The Iron Resolve hangar bay. A blinding flash of energy tore open the hangar doors, and figures emerged. Tall, armored beings in sleek, bone-white combat suits with featureless helmets. Silent, precise. Death incarnate. Vasquez's strike team opened fire, but the Pale Hand moved with terrifying grace, their weapons disintegrating soldiers in bursts of pale energy. Kaarix roared, his plasma blades igniting with a hiss. "Come then! Face a real hunter!" He launched himself at the nearest assassin, his blade clashing against the enemy's energy pike. Their fight was a dance of speed and ferocity. Parry, strike, evade. But the pale hand fought with a cold, surgical efficiency, each movement designed to kill. Mercer fought beside him, his plasma pistol flashing. He downed 2 enemies with headshots, but barely dodged a 3rd strike. These guys don't miss. Suddenly, a figure larger than the rest emerged. A pale hand commander, clad in thicker armor, wielding twin energy sabers. The commander moved with inhuman speed, disarming Vasquez and slamming her into a bulkhead. Mercer's eyes blazed. "You son of a..." He charged, but the commander backhanded him across the deck. Mercer crashed hard, his ribs screaming in protest. The commander's voice, hollow and cold, echoed from his helmet. "Mercer, your defiance has upset the balance. You and your pet Starry will be extinguished." Kaarix's eyes burned. "Try it." They clashed. Kaarix fought with savage precision, his dual plasma blades meeting the commander's sabers in a cascade of sparks. But the pale hand was fast. Too fast. A slash tore through Kaarix's side, sizzling his scales. The commander raised his saber for the killing blow. A shot rang out. The commander stumbled, his armor smoking from a railgun blast. Mercer, bloodied but standing, leveled his weapon. "You talk too much." The commander turned just as Kaarix drove both blades into his chest. The pale hand fell, his armor collapsing with a hollow clatter. The remaining assassins froze, then, as if on cue, they vanished, dissolving into pale energy, leaving only silence and scorched wreckage. The aftermath. Vasquez groaned, holding her ribs. "What the hell was that?" Mercer wiped blood from his mouth. "Something worse than the council?" Kaarix, clutching his burned side, growled. "They weren't here to kill us. They were here to warn us." The comm crackled again. The pale hand, though defeated, left a final message. "The balance has been disturbed. Retribution is coming." Mercer's eyes narrowed. "Let him come." Kaarix's mandibles twitched in a grim smile. "We'll be waiting." A new enemy emerges, the Pale Hand, an ancient sect of assassins who kill for balance, not profit. They mark Mercer and Kaarix for death, warning that their actions have triggered something far worse. The med bay of the Iron Resolve hummed softly as Kaarix lay on the examination table, his emerald green scales glistening under the soft surgical lights. The wound across his side, a deep, sizzling burn from the Pale Hand commander's saber, was slowly knitting together under the ship's advanced healing systems. His yellow eyes, sharp and unblinking, watched as Vasquez limped into the room, her ribs freshly bandaged. "You look worse than me," Kaarix rasped, his mandibles twitching in what passed for a grin. Vasquez shot him a flat look. "I didn't know you and Starry made jokes. We usually let our enemies do the laughing." "Before we kill them," Vasquez smirked. "Charming." The doors hissed open and Elias Mercer strode in, his black uniform streaked with soot and blood. His ice-cold eyes, cold and sharp, cut straight to Kaarix. "Can you fight?" Kaarix's claws flexed against the table. "Can you breathe?" Mercer's lips twitched in amusement. "Good, because we've got a problem." He activated the holo display. A recording from the battle flickered to life, showing the Pale Hand commander before his death. "The balance has been disturbed. Retribution is coming." Vasquez frowned. "What the hell does that mean?" Kaarix's eyes darkened. "The Pale Hand doesn't kill for power or profit. They kill to restore what they call the balance." Mercer crossed his arms. "Balance of what?" The Sistari's voice dropped to a low growl. "Power. Influence. Survival. If a species rises too far, too fast, they erase it." Vasquez's eyes widened. "You're telling me there's some kind of cosmic exterminators?" Kaarix nodded. "And they've decided we're the imbalance." Mercer's voice was cold steel. "Then we kill them first." The Source hyperspace approached to Vegaspire. The Iron Resolve surged through hyperspace, the star trail stretching endlessly before the viewport. The ship's AI chimed softly. Approaching Vega Spire, disengaging from hyperspace in 30 seconds. Mercer stood at the helm, Vasquez beside him. Kaarix, his side still aching, watched the display. Vega Spire, a derelict research station orbiting a dead star. Intelligence had traced the Pale Hand's signal there. Vasquez glanced at Mercer. This feels like a trap. Mercer's eyes didn't leave the viewport. It probably is. Kaarix's mandibles clicked. Good, let them spring it. Vega Spire, outer ring. The iron resolve drifted into position, its weapons ready. The station was a graveyard. Lights flickered faintly across its hull, and debris floated aimlessly. No signs of life. Mercer's voice cut through the comms. Vasquez, take the strike team. Kaarix and I are going with you. Let's see what these Pale Hand bastards are hiding. Vega Spire, interior. The air was stale, and the corridors were coated in frost. The station was dying, its systems barely functioning. The only sounds were the hum of their suits and the distant crackle of failing power conduits. Suddenly, the walls flickered to life, holograms, recordings from the station's past. A scientist's voice echoed, Project Eidolon, status critical, we are under attack. The feed distorted, then a new voice. Cold, hollow, familiar. The balance must be restored. Kaarix's eyes flashed. The Pale Hand was here. They pressed forward, moving through research labs filled with shattered equipment and something worse. Specimens. Rows of stasis chambers lined the walls, each containing something monstrous. Mutated creatures, spliced with human and alien DNA. Hybrid horrors, their forms grotesque and unnatural. Vasquez's voice was tight. What the hell was this place? Mercer's face was stone. A weapons lab. They were making something they shouldn't. A sudden sound, soft, rhythmic, footsteps. They turned, weapons raised, but it wasn't Pale Hand. It was human. A lone figure stumbled into the corridor, his body gaunt, eyes sunken, but unmistakably human. His suit was marked with the research station's insignia. His cracked lips moved, voice weak and broken. You have to stop them. Vasquez rushed to him, scanning his vitals. Who are you? The man's eyes, glassy, terrified, locked onto Mercer. They don't want to kill you. His body shuddered violently, and he seized Mercer's arm with inhuman strength. Emily want to use you. Mercer's eyes narrowed. Use us for what? The man's lips parted, but he never got to answer. His body imploded. Flesh and bone crushed inward as if the universe itself had swallowed him whole. A pulse of pale energy rippled through the room, and then the alarms blared. Warning. Biocontainment breach detected. The stasis pods shattered, and the things inside awoke. The horror unleashed. The first creature struck without warning, a blur of twisted limbs and razor teeth. It tore through a soldier's armor like paper, the scream cut short by a sickening crunch. Vasquez opened fire, her plasma rifle blazing. Contact! Multiple hostiles! Mercer shot 2 down, their warped human-like faces melting under the onslaught. Fall back, Kaarix! Cover! Kaarix ignited his plasma blade, severing a beast mid-leap. What are these things? The ship's AI, patched into the station, responded through their suits. Eidolon Protocol, human-alien hybrid weapons, status unstable, objective, assimilation. Vasquez cursed. They were making soldiers out of people. Mercer's voice was cold, and the Pale Hand didn't want them destroyed, they wanted them controlled. Suddenly a voice, smooth, familiar, echoed from the station speakers. You understand now, the Pale Hand's voice. Your kind is the perfect vessel. Adaptive, relentless. You conquer without end, so why erase you, when we can make you ours? The creatures surged again, faster, angrier. But Kaarix, his yellow eyes blazing, growled. They want to control humanity? His plasma blades hissed, cutting down another horror. They'll learn something very human, he roared, impaling another beast through its skull. Teams don't break. Escape. The team fought their way through the nightmare, reaching the central reactor. Mercer's hand hovered over the manual override. We overload the core, destroy everything, no one gets this tech. Vasquez's voice was urgent. But if we blow the station, we blow ourselves. Kaarix, bloodied but grinning, flicked his blades. Then we'll just have to outrun it. Mercer's smirk returned. Now you're getting it. He slammed the override. The station screamed, lights flickering, alarms blaring. The team sprinted, the walls rupturing as energy built toward critical mass. Hybrid horrors poured from every corridor, but the explosion's shockwave consumed them. And nearly took the team with it. The aftermath. The iron resolve pulled them from the wreckage, battered and bleeding, but alive. Through the viewport, they watched Vega Spire collapse into a singularity of pale energy, then vanish. Mercer, his face bruised and bleeding, stared at the empty void. The pale hand isn't just trying to kill us. His ice-blue eyes, cold and sharp, met Kaarix's yellow gaze. They're trying to become us. The pale hand's true purpose is revealed. They seek to harness humanity's unbreakable nature, not destroy it. Worse, they have already begun experimenting with human-alien hybrids, creating monstrous weapons. And now, Mercer and Kaarix are their prime targets for something far worse than death. The iron resolve floated in the endless void, the wreckage of Vega Spire reduced to scattered particles behind it. The crew worked in grim silence, repairing what they could. But no tool could mend the deeper wound, the knowledge that the pale hand wasn't trying to erase humanity. They were trying to use it. War room. The iron resolve. The holographic display flickered, projecting scans recovered from Vega Spire. Human-alien hybrid soldiers, grotesque and unstoppable. Mercer stood with his arms crossed, his ice-blue eyes burning into the image. Beside him, Vasquez, her scarred face tight with anger. Kaarix watched them both. "You know what this means," the Starry said, his mandibles clicking softly. "The pale hand has a breeding ground. They are making more of those things." Mercer's voice was cold. "And they want us next." The AI chimed in. "Incoming transmission. Origin unknown." Mercer's brow furrowed. "Put it through." The central display flickered, and the pale hand's commander appeared. But something was wrong. The figure, once a towering force in bone-white armor, was now changing. Pale flesh stretched where armor should be. The helmet had fused with a face that was almost human but wrong. Eyes too deep, mouth too wide. The voice was distorted, layered with multiple tones. "Mercer, Kaarix, you survived." Mercer's hand hovered near his pistol, as if he could shoot through the projection. "We're good at that." The creature's voice was smooth, cold, good. "We need you alive. Your kind is perfect. You evolve through suffering. You break, but you reform. Stronger. We have taken samples from your fallen." Kaarix's mandibles flared. "We saw your samples. Twisted abominations." The pale hand's lips curled into something almost like a smile. "Incomplete, but with you, we will be complete." Suddenly, the ship's systems flickered. The AI stuttered. "Warning, external incursion detected, firewalls breached." The holodisplay warped, and a face emerged. Vasquez gasped. "Is that?" It was him, the scientist from Vega Spire, or what was left of him. His form was a mesh of human features and digital corruption, his eyes hollow, his voice a whisper of agony and control. "They are inside, run, too late." The transmission shattered into static, and the ship died. The lights cut out, the hum of the engines fell silent. Emergency red lights bathed the room. The AI's voice returned, corrupted and fractured. "They are here. The infestation, the iron resolve, lower decks." The first scream came from engineering. A security feed flickered on, showing the horror. Crew members collapsing mid-step as their veins turned pale, their eyes black, their bodies warping into something else. Vasquez's voice was sharp. "They've infected the systems." Kaarix ignited his plasma blades, their hiss filling the air. "They're infecting the crew." Mercer's voice was stone. "We stop it, we burn it out." Corridor assault, Deck 4. They moved quickly, fighting through the labyrinth of darkened corridors. The walls pulsed with an unnatural white growth, and shapes emerged from it, humanoid but barely. Twisted crew members, their bodies fused with pale tendrils, their eyes empty. They attacked without weapons. Only claws, only teeth. But they moved fast. Fast, too fast. Kaarix tore through them with brutal efficiency, his plasma blades searing flesh and bone. "They've made these people into weapons." Vasquez's rifle barked, dropping 1, 2, but they kept coming. "They're using the crew against us." A voice, soft and layered, whispered through the comms. "Every death only feeds us, you can't win." Mercer's answer was plasma fire to the nearest creature's head. "Watch us." The engine core, the heart of the infection. They reached engineering and found it transformed. The core was cocooned in pale biomass, and at its center, a figure, suspended, pulsing, part organic, part machina. It was Vasquez. What? The real Vasquez stood beside Mercer, her eyes wide with shock. "What the hell?" The thing turned its face to them. Her face, twisted, hollow. It spoke to her in her voice. "We have learned you, we are you." The real Vasquez raised her weapon. "Burn it." The copy smiled. "If I die, so do you." Mercer's gun was steady. "You're lying." The creature's hollow eyes locked on him. "Am I?" Suddenly, Vasquez staggered, her eyes flashed pale. And she screamed. The voice echoed from her lips, layered and unnatural. "We are inside her now. Choose!" Mercer's finger trembled on the trigger. Curate's decision. In a flash, Kaarix moved and drove his blade through the copy's heart. It shrieked, and so did Vasquez. She dropped to her knees, her body convulsing. Mercer caught her, his voice raw. "Vasquez." Her eyes flickered, black then green. She gasped, I'm still." The creature's corpse collapsed into ash. Vasquez, trembling, touched her chest. "They were in me." The last threat. A cold voice returned, soft and sinister. "You win a battle, but we are in your bones now, and soon you will join us. We are Pale Hand no longer. We are..." The whisper deepened. The becoming. The Pale Hand has evolved. They are no longer assassins, but a hive mind, capable of infecting humans and Starry alike. Worse, they've touched Vasquez, leaving her uncertain if she is still herself or theirs. The medbay was eerily quiet. Vasquez sat on the examination table, her hands trembling as she stared at the pale veins still faintly visible beneath her skin. The bioscanners showed no active infection, but she felt it. Something. Lingering inside. Mercer stood beside her, his icicle eyes cold with anger and something else. Fear. Not of her. For her. Kaarix, leaning against the wall, his emerald scales dull with fatigue, broke the silence. "They marked you. They'll come back for you." Vasquez's voice was tight. "Then let them try." War room. The iron resolve. The holographic display flickered to life, showing a pulsating anomaly, a rift, raw and unstable. Mercer's voice was clipped. "We traced their signal. They're hiding in there." Some kind of subspace fold. Kaarix's mandibles clicked. "Alaya, or a nest." Vasquez, her voice low, a hive. Mercer's gaze was like steel. "We burn it." The rift, the final approach. The iron resolve tore through the screaming edge of the anomaly, space itself warping and bending. The Pale Hand's fortress came into view, a colossal organic construct fused with shattered ships and bone-like spires, pulsing with a sickly pale light. Suddenly, the iron resolve shuddered. Boarding pods, the last assault, inside the hive. Kaarix, Mercer, and Vasquez fought side by side, carving through monstrous hybrid creatures, human, starry, and more. The pale hand had been collecting from every species. The walls spoke with thousands of voices. You cannot kill what is becoming. The heart of the hive. They reached it, a vast chamber, and at its center, a figure suspended in a web of tendrils. The pale hand commander. But it was no longer a being. It was a host, and it opened its hollow eyes. Vasquez gasped. "It's me." The commander spoke Chikari with her voice. "We are you now, and you are us." The final choice. The walls pulsed. Vasquez dropped, clutching her head. The infection it was activating. The commander's voice. "You can join us or destroy her." Mercer raised his weapon, his voice cracking. Vasquez through gritted teeth. "Don't stop. Finish this. Career success first." With a roar, Kaarix threw his plasma blade straight into the heart of the hive. The world screamed. The hive collapsed, and with it, the infection. Vasquez survived. Epilogue. The unbroken. The iron resolve battered but intact. Vasquez breathing alive. "I felt them, and I rejected them." Mercer, his voice low. "They'll never take us." Kaarix, his mandibles twitching, "because humans don't break. And neither do their allies. The pale hand is destroyed, but their attempt to become humanity failed, because humanity's true power is in their refusal to break. And now, humanity and Sistari stand together."